This is Stefan Schmidt for InsiderIowa.com. The 2012 Iowa caucuses have concluded. It's been a fantastic but very long year. And of course, Iowa still is first in the nation. We get to express our opinion on who we think should be the candidate for president of the United States. And this year, of course, the Democrats have President Obama as the incumbent, and the Republicans needed to choose someone. And it's been an amazing year, probably the most interesting in my 40 years of analyzing American politics and elections. We started out very early on. We had the famous summer Ames straw poll in which Michelle Bachmann, Congresswoman from Minnesota, did very well and won it, and then we continued. And what happened this year was that different candidates rose, were scrutinized, and then declined again, and so it was really like a roller coaster. Herman Cain, for example, the pizza CEO from Godfather's Pizza, at one point rose, and then there were some accusations about his personal life that really destroyed his candidacy. There was Rick Perry, the governor from Texas, who looked very promising but performed poorly in the debates, and his candidacy did not take off. And of course, we know about Donald Trump, who at one point began to make noises about running and then got bored with it. His numbers were very high for the few weeks that he was talking about running for president. And then Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of the House, former congressman, shot to the very top. And he frankly looked unbeatable. He had very high percentages. And many of the analysts and pundits thought that this was the candidate who was going to really lead the Iowa caucuses and win them and go on. But then began a scrutiny of his background, his personal life, a lot of affairs, divorces, and then also his lobbying for various not so favored organizations in the country. He did not lobby for children with disabilities or the elderly. He lobbied for the housing mortgage giant Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. He also did a lot of work for a tremendous amount of money for companies in the healthcare industry. And he always claimed that those were not lobbying, that he was basically a historian, which he is by profession, but that never stuck. So here are the results of the Iowa caucuses. An amazing photo finish, amazing. I think the difference finally was 8 votes between the two front runners. So there were 2 winners. Mitt Romney, the former governor of Massachusetts and business CEO, and Rick Santorum, the former senator from Pennsylvania, who spent a lot of time in Iowa, months, you can say, and who had not really done very well in the polls until the final days and hours of the caucuses, when he suddenly caught fire. He was the family values guy, a lot of children and a very stable marriage. And he shot up to compete with Mitt Romney for first place. Ron Paul was expected to win, and he did very well. Ron Paul, the Texas congressman, came in 3rd with a substantial backing. And then there were some disappointments, of course, and the results showed that Michelle Bachmann, the congresswoman from Minnesota, who was first for a while, came in so poorly, so far down at the end of the group, that she has announced that she's suspending her campaign, which is really terminating her campaign. The reason you suspend it is for technical and tax purposes, but Michelle Bachmann is no longer a candidate for president. Governor Rick Perry of Texas was very well funded, had an enormous war chest, but he never caught on, and I've done the analysis before, I've written about it as you know, and I've also talked to you about it. He reminded people of George W. Bush. He had a Texas accent. He was very handsome and rugged, but people, I think, generally were not interested in having another 4 or 8 years of a Texas president, because President Bush ended his presidency with a lot of controversy, and I think that hurt him. And also, Rick Perry did very poorly in the debates. He made a lot of mistakes. The word oops, which we've always used, has now become a part of the American political vocabulary, just as Howard Dean's scream at the end of the Iowa caucuses when he was running for president is also part now of American legend and folklore. And so we now see a terrific ending to a very expensive, dynamic caucus season. The turnout was very good. The weather in Iowa cooperated and was very good. And we have a field of essentially, I think, 3 candidates at the top who are going to continue this battle. There may be 4, and we'll talk about that in a different context. But Iowa Caucus 2012 was a resounding and spectacular success, and I've never seen in my 40 years of analyzing the caucuses as much international as well as U.S. media. I think I've talked in all the languages that I speak, some of which it's not too good, to media organizations who were here. And I think that anyone who watched this should be proud of how we begin the process, because it required a great deal of commitment by candidates and a great deal of work and scrutiny by the voters of Iowa, especially in the Republican Party. Barack Obama is not contested, so even though there were Democratic caucuses, they were not, very visible in the news media. But it's a wonderful way to bring the candidates down close to voters, watch them, and study them, and make sure in the end that you know a lot about the candidates so that you make a good decision. So this is Stefan Schmidt, basically wrapping up the 2012 Iowa First in the Nation presidential caucuses.